Let me ask you a question. I'm going to assume that you've been listening to me for a while now, and you've come up with some really good stories. Maybe you've even gone out and given a speech and told some of your stories, but you're having mixed results. Some of your material works and some of it falls flat. Some of your stories work and some of them don't. And you're not sure what's missing, what you're doing wrong or not doing right. Maybe it's just you're just something you're not doing right. Well, believe me, I've been there. I've had to learn the hard way by trying this and trying that. And over time, I've been able to have consistent and positive results and feedback because I learned from my experiences. And now I get to help people just like you as a speech and story coach. Now, one of the top reasons people hire me as their coach is not only to work on their stories, but to help them design their keynote speeches, to help them get clarity on what their message is and what points they want to make. They come to me with lots of good ideas for stories and points they want to make, but they're struggling to put them all together in a concise and coherent and inspiring package because in many cases, they've gone out and given the speech a number of times, but they've come away unhappy with the results because they know, they can feel it, that what they're doing is not working. The pieces don't fit together. It's too disjointed and uninspiring, too much content and not enough connection. Do you know what I mean? Have you had that experience where you put a speech together and you think it's going to work, you think it's what you want to say, but then you get in front of an audience and it just doesn't work. It doesn't feel right. It doesn't come together. And the audience response isn't what you hope for either. It's interesting, but not compelling. You want to blow people away, but something is missing. Your stories, well, they're okay, but they're not great. And what's often missing, what I help people to discover is that all of the pieces of a speech are like a jigsaw puzzle, and they all have to fit together seamlessly. The stories and lessons and content all have to fit together. But what my clients are bringing to me are a bunch of pieces from different puzzles that don't fit together. There's no unifying theme. And some of the stories don't have anything to do with what they're trying to say. But there are pieces of the puzzle that work. They do. And the challenge is to figure out what pieces to keep and what to let go, what to discard, what stories fit perfectly, and what stories are extraneous. They just don't fit. So in this episode, I'm going to share with you a keynote design hack that will help you on your own without having to hire me as a coach, although that would be great because I love helping people get that clarity. But this hack will help you to lay out all of the pieces that you have, that you want to include, and all of the stories and the lessons they teach, the points that you want to make. You'll be able to lay them all out and look at them objectively. And you'll be able to see for yourself that some of your pieces belong in another speech, or they don't belong in any speech because you have other pieces, new pieces that are better. Now, based on what I'm going to share with you in this episode, you may want to take some notes, okay, about what I'm going to share with you. So if you're on a plane or sitting in an airport or at a Starbucks or a restaurant, or later on, if you're in your car or on your way to a movie premiere where you're going to walk the red carpet, like that's going to happen, right? Because this is a hack that is called the Dynamite Shuffle. And it's part of my 10 CD Dynamite Speech System. The Dynamite Speech System is a home study course that I developed many years ago for how to design a dynamite keynote speech, a professional speaker level dynamite speech, one worthy of a $10,000 speaking fee. So this hack, the Dynamite Shuffle, is what I suggest to all of my coaching clients as a way to get some clarity on their speech elements, the stories and lessons and anecdotes and models and methods and pie charts and all of the pieces that go into a speech. So there are two ways that you can do the Dynamite Shuffle. One is with PowerPoint slides, and the other is a very tactile and Luddite process with 3x5 or 5x7 index cards. Now, I know, I'm going to come up against some heavy Generation X and Y and Z and millennial backslash for suggesting using index cards. I mean, come on, really? Index cards? But stay with me for a moment and hear me out, okay? I know there's probably an app that lets you do this, but hear me out, okay? Come on, just hang out with me for a minute. Hear me out. Let's start out with doing the Dynamite Shuffle with index cards, okay? Hang in there with me. What you do is this. You get a stack of 5x7 index cards and you sit down at your kitchen or dining room table with your stack of cards. And on each card, you write down one idea or lesson or story, one piece of your keynote puzzle, one element, but only one thing. For instance, if you have a story that you want to tell, you write down the name of the story, the point the story makes, and how long the story is, how many minutes it will take to tell that story. Now, you're not writing out the story on the card. No, just the details of the story, the name, the point, how many minutes. Then you put that card aside, and on another card, you make a note about, let's say, your opening statement. You know, you've got an opening statement, the way you open your speech, and you estimate how many minutes your opening remarks will take. So you make some notes on a card. My opening comments, you write a sentence or two. What are you trying to say with that? What's the point? And how many minutes? Okay. And then you put that aside. And you keep doing this with each and every element of your speech. One index card for every idea, every story, every slide or visual element, every point, every quote or reference. Just fill up a whole bunch of cards. You're brainstorming here. Everything gets to come onto a card, but keep each card simple. You want lots of cards with lots of elements, lots of potential pieces of the puzzle. You're just brainstorming here, compiling all of the elements you've used in the past with new ideas and concepts, new stories. But there are three things that you have to have on each card. Number one, the idea or story or content piece, just a sentence or two. Number two, the point or lesson of each slide or story or content piece, the point. And number three, how long it will take to talk about that idea or story or content piece. This third piece is essential. Each card has to have a time element because at the end of the day, you're going to have to do the math and add up how many minutes your final elements add up to. You're going to take all the cards and you're going to do the math. And I can tell you right now, it's not going to be fun when you do the math and you come up with a number that just doesn't work. So let's say you've taken the time, and it will take some time, guys and gals. It can take many hours over a number of strategy sessions to get everything you want to consider on the cards. And let's say you end up with, okay, 43 cards. I've had clients tell me they started out with 60 or 70 cards, but let's just say, for discussion, you've got 43 cards. Okay, good. All is well. Now, you lay them all out on the kitchen table or whatever, and you review them. And very quickly, you'll realize that you have to let some pieces go. Some of them become obvious that you just have to let them go because they're redundant, or they're not essential, or they're just old and stale. You're bored with them. Some of them have to go because of the math. You just don't have the time to say everything you want to say. And some of them will stand out as must-haves. They are the building blocks of your keynote, the essential elements that are the core of what you have to say to the world. So let's say you've culled your deck of cards and now you're down to 28 cards. Now, it's time to do the Dynamite Shuffle. And I do mean shuffle, because now you're going to start moving the cards around, shuffling them to put them in the order you think would make the most sense, the most logical flow of one element to the next in a keynote. Move them around on the table, stare at them. What would work? What seems like a good flow? Where do you insert the stories? And here's where it gets interesting. Consider how many cards you have in a sequence that are all cerebral, all intellectual, all good content points, but there's no story, no emotion, no humor. They're all good ideas and solid content, but they're the same ideas and content that are interesting but not compelling, not inspiring or motivating. They didn't work before and they won't work going forward. One of the most distressing comments you can hear from an audience member after your speech is that it was interesting. You know what that means? Your speech was interesting. It means that you said some nice things, but you didn't move the needle. You didn't challenge them. You didn't make them uncomfortable. You didn't disrupt their status quo. You gave a nice, safe speech. And I will say it again, safe as a speaker is a very dangerous place to be. You need to do things and say things they're not expecting. You need to be unpredictable. You need to take some chances and be a little controversial. Not rude or unprofessional, but you need to tell some stories that blow people away. Funny stories, dramatic and emotional stories that make people feel something. So take a good look at your cards and ask yourself, what's provocative? Do I have anything on there that's provocative, that's a little risky? And what am I afraid to do and say? Because it's a little outside of my comfort zone. It's not what people are expecting from me. And what is on those cards that represents you doing and saying what you think you're supposed to say and do rather than what you really want to say? What's in your heart? Challenge yourself. Now, reshuffle the cards again. Pull some cards out of the deck and insert some new cards with new ideas and stories. Now, the reason you're doing this is to create something new and exciting for you and new and exciting for your audience. And that means letting go of some of your old material that you've been doing for years and challenging yourself to create new material that represents who you are now. To tell you the truth, that is the number one reason people hire me as their keynote coach, is because they want to develop something new and provocative and exciting that they can take out into the world and experiment with. Because for many of them, this new speech, this new keynote represents a change in direction in their lives. Not a rehashing of old material, but a combination of some of the tried and true older material with a fresh perspective and new material, new stories, new lessons, new branding. And it often comes at a time in their lives when they're wanting to step into professional speaking and they know their old speech won't cut it. They've evolved, but their speech hasn't. And they recognize that they need help and guidance and someone with an objective point of view, someone who has made a living giving keynote speeches and has learned from experience what works that gets you paid and what doesn't work. Because it's too content heavy. It's okay, but it's not dynamite. It doesn't blow people away and have them coming up to you after your speech asking you for your business card because they want to recommend you to someone else. And many of them come to me, and this happens a lot, because they're rebranding themselves. They're building a new website and writing a book, and they know that the speech and the website and the book and the branding all have to fit together. Now, the reason I suggest you do the Dynamite Shuffle with index cards is because it's tactile. It's kinesthetic. You get to stand there at your kitchen or dining room table and look down at these cards. You get to shuffle them around. And it's also visual in a way that using PowerPoint slides on your computer isn't. You're standing, you're moving, you're shuffling, and you're making notes and scribbling on the cards. You're making new cards. And finally, and this is something that I've discovered kind of by happenstance, I decided, and this was really cool, I decided to use colored highlight markers to color code my cards. So I'd use a color. I really like orange. Orange is one of my favorite colors. And so I'd make an orange mark on all of the cards that had a story where I told a story. And I picked blue for all of my content or more intellectual or cerebral cards, my idea cards. And then I'd use green for all of my slides with a quote or a reference. And pink would be for any slide with a graph or chart, and so on and so on. You get different colors, and you color code all the cards. You can do whatever you want. And by the end of the exercise using color highlighters, you can easily look down and see if your speech is out of balance. You got too much content and not enough connection, not enough story and metaphor and analogy, not enough fun and humor. And if you have 7 blue cards in a row, that's going to put people to sleep. Because you do the math, you add up the numbers of the blue card, you come up with, oh, that's like 12 minutes in a row of content without any connection. So one of the things you need to do in a keynote is you need to keep changing the energy in the room, changing the dynamic. Blue, pink, orange, blue, green, orange again. Mix it up, guys, mix it up. Now that's how the Dynamite Shuffle works with index cards. Now, you can do something similar with PowerPoint slides. But the difference is you're using each slide the same way you use the cards, the same process. Each slide represents one speech element. Now remember, these slides are not keynote slides. They're not performance slides. They are Dynamite Shuffle slides. And you do the same thing with the slides, only you're shuffling them and moving them around on your computer screen. And this process can work, but what if you got 70 slides? You can't see them all. On a kitchen table, you can see them all. But it's nowhere near as much fun because by default, you're sitting at your computer. You're in your head. You're typing on a keyboard. You're not using your body. And it's nowhere near as tactile and hands-on. And for me, a huge part of my creative process takes place away from my computer. When I'm moving and doing something, I brainstorm ideas at the kitchen table. When I want to create something, when I want to come up with a story or two, I sit down at the kitchen table with a pen and paper. And then I come back to my computer and create outlines and make notes. But the creative process is a different beast. It's not linear. It's often random and disjointed. Ideas come out of rumination and dreams and observation. Sparks fly and inspiration hits. That's why people do creative work at Starbucks or a library. I wrote a good part of my book at the library, surrounded by people, surrounded by books. I like to be surrounded by people doing things, having conversations. I need stimulation, and sitting at your computer may not get your creative juices flowing. So keep a stack of index cards with you wherever you go and jot down ideas. Do it at the grocery store, in the produce aisle. What the heck? Now, that's why I'm a big proponent of walking away from your computer and working with the Dynamite Shuffle index cards. You can have your computer at the table with you if you want, at the kitchen table, to refer to your keynote slides and such, but give it a try, my friends. Arrange and rearrange, brainstorm in a new way. If you want a new result, try a new process. And you know what helps? You know what helps? Music. What kind of music gets your creative juices flowing? Dance while you're shuffling the cards. Move your body. Get those synapses firing. Do the Dynamite Shuffle, my friends. It works. Now, the most humbling part of this process is when you think you have all the cards sorted and in a good order, a good flow, and then you do the math. You add up all the minutes on all the cards, and oh no, they add up to 74 minutes, and you're developing a 60-minute keynote. Back to the drawing board. What do you need to cut? What do you have to keep? And trust me on this, for a 60-minute keynote, you only want 55 minutes. For some reason, and you've probably experienced this, when you get in front of an audience, an inspiration hits or someone makes a comment or you go off on a 3-minute tangent, you'll need that leeway. So do the math and try and come up with 55 minutes for a 60-minute keynote. So The Dynamite Shuffle is an essential keynote design hack that you can do on your own. But if you get into the process and you get to a point where you need my help to validate what you're coming up with and to help you get clarity on the speech elements that you're not sure of, by all means, give us a call. And remember, I offer a free, no obligation, and I mean it, no obligation, a free 30-minute coaching call. We do them on Zoom. And I work with people all over the world. So don't worry about where you live and where I live and time zones and all that. We can work it out. So if you want to take advantage of the free 30 minutes, call my office and talk to Deborah. She's my wife. She's the best person in the world. She's a genius. The number to call is 719 310 8586. I'll put that in the notes on Spotify and Apple and everywhere else. All right. That's it for episode 66 of the Storytelling That Sticks for Business and Life podcast. If you like what you're hearing, don't forget to go back and start from the beginning with episode 1. But if you feel like I'm giving you valuable information and inspiration, tell your friends, spread the word, and leave a review and subscribe wherever it is that you listen to me. And as always, I'd really like to hear from you. I want to hear from you guys. Send me an email with your ideas and feedback. Tell me what you're doing out there. Are you using what I'm sharing with you? Is it helping? Hey, let me know. Send an email to Doug@DougStevenson.com. That's Doug, D-O-U-G, at DougStevenson. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.